Welcome back to the Intercourse Show. I'm your host, Mr. B. Today we have a very exciting show for you. We are reviewing another Kevin Samuels interview with a 35-year-old single mother who he eventually gave a reality check to. So I haven't seen this video, so we'll be reacting to it real time as it goes along. All right, let's go ahead and jump into it.
How are you? How old are you?
35.
All right. So what are we talking about? Are we talking about real high value men? Are we talking about Order 66? Or are we talking about stuff from Brittany Renner? What are we doing? Or do you have a question?
I wanted to talk about like high value men. Well, not specifically, but like I'm a person who I feel like I'm high value,
Okay.
but I'm not interested specifically in a high value man. And I know you said that all women are. I want a man that just respects me and understands the type of life that I live.
Okay.
And I'm okay with somebody who's just for me. Like I really feel like God may have put a person in place for me, and I'm not gonna decide.
Let me.
That I'm
You
not
mind if I
gonna
ask you? Mind if I ask you a couple of questions?
Yes,
So, do you have any children?
yes,
How many?
2,
By the same father or different fathers?
same.
All right. Would you like to be married one day?
I would like to be married one day.
Okay. Would you like to have any additional children after you're married?
Um, if um, if asked by my husband, I would definitely have children for him.
Oh, cool. Do you care if your possible husband has children?
I don't. If I'm gonna have them, then I would have to equal the playing fields for him too.
Okay, so if you had kids, how many more would you have? 1, 2, what, 3, 4?
I would have 1,000 if that person that was for me wanted 1,000 more kids.
Okay, now let's be realistic. Now I'm trying to be real.
No, I would.
Ma'am,
if
you
he
can't have
asked me my
1,000. You can't have
opinion, I
1,000
would
kids,
have-
ma'am. Ma'am, I appreciate the but I'm trying to be.
Yeah,
How many kids?
however many he would want, I would have those kids.
Oh, okay. So let's say he wanted 2 kids. It's 2. You're 35, right?
Yes.
So after you're married, would you want to have to work to pay significant bills after you're pregnant with your next child?
Yes, I would like to continue to work. I like
I said, no, the question I asked, would you want to have to work? Not would you like, I said, would you want to have to?
I don't want to have to work.
Okay. So if you had 2 more children, so that'd be 4 total if he had none. What percentage of the overall family financial load would you, as a wife and a mother of 4, want to have to be responsible for a lifetime? Meaning right now, as an unmarried woman, you have to be responsible for 100% of your family financial load. But as a married woman, what percentage of the overall family financial load? That means the children, that means the mortgage, the cars, if the children want to go to college, the family trips, the vacations, the investments, what overall percentage do you want to have to be responsible for?
50. I feel like that's reasonable. 50%.
So 50% means if you stop working or lose your job or cease to earn, the family is at critical risk.
Right.
Okay, so that means if you stop, let's just say you got sick or you broke up, that means you want half of the financial burden to be on you. So that means that's a lot. So that means you end up, are you sure?
I'm positive. I'm very conscious about money.
Okay, ma'am. I just want to be clear. 50% is a high burden. So that means you go out, every dollar that's spent, 50% is yours. If there's a kid's college and tuition, if the tuition is $15,000, you got to come up with $7,500. 50% is a high burden, but let's go with that.
Mm-hmm.
State do you live in?
Illinois. I'm from Chicago.
Okay, Chicago. what kind of annual income do you think you would need for a middle class lifestyle for a family of four? What kind of to have a decent home, have access to good public schools, things like that? What do you think you need for annual income combined for two adults and four people, for four children?
For two adults.
Mm-hmm.
I think that like 150 would be okay.
150?
Yes.
150,000. Are you a nurse?
Because yes, I am. I've been making around that up until this year, and I have a really huge house. And
okay, but I need you to listen. You said you've been making that?
Yeah.
Around that? Okay, but we're talking about doubling what you have. So you'd be if you only had 150 total, that means you'd be taking a half a step back. You need more. So you want to rethink about that? Because if you're already living at 150 level, you need more for another adult because he has to make some money than other kids.
Right. So I'm considering that, like, for example, last year I didn't work for 8 months and I was able to cover my bills with my
Okay, but that's no, ma'am. See, no. See, you ladies start to overcomplicate things. I just need the number. If you make 150, that means the man could come in, be your husband, and have to make no money. If you say all you need is 150,
I'm not asking to make any money. You asked what would be a comfortable amount.
Yes, for a family for 6 people, not 3. You got that for 3 people?
Yes.
Okay, ma'am, stop trying to outthink the question. Please stop trying to outthink the question.
Okay.
That's not going to get you anywhere. If it's you and your 2 kids on 150, a man, a husband, and 2 more kids, how much more money are you going to need?
I feel like this is the thing. This is what I'm saying. I feel like, for example, what I'm making now could even cover that. I'm not saying I want to cover all of that.
That's not what I asked, ma'am. That's not what I asked. And this is why I start to, okay, ma'am, this is why, okay, ma'am, if you're good with money, we don't have to talk about feeling. This is why it starts to run off the rails, because you ladies become disingenuous. Stop this bullshit.
Okay.
You're saying that right now you feel like you could take on a husband and 2 kids and y'all can live on 150,000 and be comfortable. Is that what I'm hearing?
I feel that way.
Okay.
I know you want me to go up.
Oh, God damn it. See, this is why this conversation gets off the rails. Because when women start to try to outthink the questions, you're trying to maneuver. So are you living at your budget right now? Are you living at what you earn?
Well, I live a little lower than what I earn. I live lower.
Okay, but it's in the ballpark of what you earn. In the ballpark.
Somewhat.
Not somewhat. Okay, then, ma'am, right there, then you couldn't. Because a man coming in and 2 additional children, if you're living at your income, you'd have to decrease your standard of living. Simple math. Simple math. Ma'am, if you're living at $100,000 income, if a man comes in and you have 2 children, that doubles the amount of people. You will have to decrease your standard of living or increase your income annually. Everybody in the chat room understands what I'm saying. So we shouldn't have got off task here. You're trying to outthink the question. Do you want a man to be earning roughly what you make? Or do you want to be the breadwinner?
I don't mind I genuinely don't mind being the breadwinner.
All right, but let's cut the shit. If you want to be responsible let's cut the shit. If you want to be responsible for 50% of the family financial load, that means a man has to make what you're making or more to cover his 50%. Is that simple enough? That should be simple
Okay.
enough, right?
Okay.
Right? Right.
Yeah.
So $150,000 a year. What percentage of men make $150,000 a year or more?
I think you said something like 20%.
Less than 10%. Class, this woman said, I don't necessarily want a high value man. And she just by the numbers, she wants a man who's making high value money. So do you want to
Well,
go
I
ahead?
don't.
No, ma'am, stop, be quiet. Please stop. I did all that for a reason because I need to show that you ladies think, I don't really want a man that's doing that much. And you still want a man earning the top 10%. That's high value money. Do you at least acknowledge that? Yes or no?
Kevin, I'm gonna have to say yes because I'm afraid to say no.
It's not afraid to say no, ma'am, because you've already, there's no afraid to say no, ma'am. I'm just using what you said. There's no afraid to say anything, man. I asked you. You want to get married? Yes. How much, what percentage, if you want to have additional kids, 1,000 children. This is why this shit matters, because y'all talk out of one side of your mouth and live out the other side of your neck. And you never put two and two together. And you say, I'm not looking for a high value man, but then you looking for a man who's making high value money, living like an average good old Joe. But that ain't what you want either. I've been doing this for too long, ma'am. So the questions I ask aren't to trip you up. It's to crystallize that you, somebody who says is good with money, they ain't even thought about what it really means. You are not going to decrease your standard of living when you're married. You're not going to marry a man and get pregnant at 35 and have 2 children and decrease the standard of living that you and your 2 children currently have and live at 150,000. Anybody in the chat room with any damn sense knows you want a man to be earning at least what you're earning because you want to be responsible for 50%. That means a man has to be responsible for 50%. So he has to make at least what you're making. By math, 2 plus 2 is 4. If you want to be responsible for 50% of 4, what is 50% of 4? 2. If you want to be responsible for 50% of 3, what is 50% of 3? 1.5. You got 1.5. So you want a man at 1.5. That is the top 10% of men. The top 10% of men are not looking for 35-year-old baby mamas or 2 kids. They're not.
So in retrospect, you're saying that I don't need to be looking for a high value man.
You're not calling him high value, but you still want him to be earning what you're earning. Because you don't want to take a step back in your standard of living.
You're calculating this as if my bills are 150,000.
I don't. No. I'm calculating. No bullshit. Don't try to play those games with me. I'm too good at this. I'm calculating what you said. I don't need to know your bills. I need to know that you want to be responsible for 50% of the overall family financial load. So that means he has to be responsible for the other 50%. And you're already living at one level. Ain't nobody in here stupid. Women don't take a step back to get married to take steps back. They're getting married to take steps forward or at least maintain. You're not trying to be the breadwinner for a man. Nobody's crazy, man. So what you need to understand is maybe you don't call it high value because you associate it with being rich and famous and jewels and this, but it's still the same money. The bank doesn't care. The mortgage doesn't care. Your lifestyle is set for a single woman with 2 children earning what you make. You're not living at a $40,000 a year salary. You're living at what you can afford, like most people. This is why you grown ass women become disingenuous, because you don't even sit down and think about what it means. We haven't even gotten to what the man wants, but I'm just fixing on the fact that so many women like yourself come in and say, I don't necessarily need a man who's high value. And then you proceed to describe a man who's earning high value. It happens every day. Every day it happens.
So, Mr. Samuels, Can I ask you a question?
Sure.
Because I mean, it's the thing is, so you're saying that basically I don't qualify to date somebody that would, but on paper, be my standard. So what do I qualify for?
Well, let's start here.
Because I'm
Let's start here.
35 years dating mom.
Let's start here. Let's start here. That's
Okay.
a broadly, that's a general statement. I said that high value men are not looking for 35-year-old baby mamas of two. In general, they are not. But let's start. How tall are you?
I'm 5'3",
Dress size?
size 8,
How much did you weigh the last time you weighed yourself?
159. Oh my God.
One
I
what?
don't want to say that.
159?
159. I work out every day. I have a really great body. I
Okay.
take care of myself.
Okay. Hey, ma'am. Okay. Okay.
Okay.
What would you on the fresh face out of the shower, your natural hair, no makeup, just your face? What would you give yourself on a scale from 1 to 10? You can't use 7.
I would say a 9. I would
A-
give myself a 9.
A 9. So at 35 years old, you would give yourself a 9. Fresh face out of the shower. So you'd put yourself in
Yeah.
the you put yourself in the pretty, beautiful, or gorgeous category. So Beyonce's an 8. Beyonce's an 8. Kelly Rowland is a 9. Rihanna is a 10. Where in your life have you had 9 outcomes? Meaning, let me back up. Your child's father. You guys weren't married, right?
We were.
You were. Okay. Did he go to college?
He did.
What did he do for a living? You don't have to be 100% specific, but what did he do?
He's a nurse.
Okay. So, does he earn more than you?
He does now.
Okay.
He has a doctorate.
So a 9 in Chicago. I'll give you somebody like Lisa Ray. Lisa Ray, she's an 8. Back in her day, Lisa Ray back in her day was an 8.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And if you're Chicago, you know the kind of women that get 9s, men who are 9s, women who are 9s. All right. But your child's father, your ex-husband was a nurse.
Mm-hmm.
You don't get higher than your baby daddy, your child's father,
Okay.
because no disrespect, man, but you're not a 9, you're a 6. You're cute,
Okay.
but you're not a 9. That's not an insult. You're cute. But 9s are women who are pretty, beautiful, or gorgeous. These are the kind of women that people walk down the street and they're like, "Ooh, have you ever modeled before?" Or, "Hey, go ahead. Go ahead. You muted yourself."
Can
Go
you
ahead.
hear me?
I can now. Go ahead.
I said I get that. I've actually modeled before. I've done
Okay.
sports modeling.
Okay, ma'am. Model. I don't mean print model. I mean, like, okay, it's fine. 5'3", you're not really model height. Your print work, sure.
Right.
I get, so my point is, I'm not saying you're not an attractive woman, but you're not a 9, especially at 35 with 2 kids. I mean, I love to understand what system you ladies are using. If you're a 9, 35 with 2 children, who's a 10? Ma'am, you muted yourself.
You're asking me what is my opinion about my physical appearance. And I'm
Okay,
giving
ma'am,
you-
but your physical appearance needs to be okay, unmute yourself. You muted yourself. You keep muting yourself. I don't do that. I'm not doing this. Hello?
Oh, there it is. Can you hear me?
Yeah. Okay, ma'am, your opinion, like a grown adult, needs to be rooted in reality, not fantasy. So you can't say and look me straight in the face and say, my opinion of myself is I'm a 9, then who is a 10 on your scale?
And I would say Beyonce's a 10.
Okay.
You said she's an 8.
And that's why I said, and you're beneath her. She's an 8. She's an 8. You would put her at a 10, but Beyonce is an 8. Ma'am, you're not that, ma'am, my point of the matter is, so let me get to the ultimate point. One of the big problems is you ladies overvalue yourselves. You overrank yourself. You're not a 9. And especially as a divorced woman with 2 children. Okay? So your child's father is what you could score, land, marry. And who filed for divorce in your marriage?
I did.
Why?
He was verbally abusive.
So, and what did you do? And you were just quiet. You didn't respond.
Yes.
Was there any police reports filed?
I'm sorry.
Did it ever get physical?
Once.
All right. I'm gonna go down that path. How long were you guys married?
8 years.
All right. So in general, ma'am, women across the board can expect to get what the man that a woman chose to reproduce with tends to be the upper limit of what she can get with men. Tends to be. So I'm not saying it's 100%, but even at that, ma'am, you're still looking for somebody who's earning on the level you're earning, and you're not looking for an average guy making $41,000 a year, right? Or wrong? Nope.
Not 41,000.
Thank you. So basically, so when she, and why I get so granular is these ladies come through the door virtue signaling, talking about I just want a man who's a good man, who's this and that, when it really does come down to the money. Gentlemen, your godfather is right again. Do not let them virtue signal and gaslight you, because it does come. She thinks she's a 9. She thinks she deserves a man on her level, earning what she's earning. Cool. Can't change that. But ma'am, that ain't, if you don't have that approaching you in your life for serious relationship and consideration for marriage, that should tell you something.
Okay, I have to step in here because it took quite some time, more than 20 minutes, for him to finally get to the point where she was actually honest. Now, at first, it seemed like Kevin was being a little mean to her. I'm not going to lie, because he was very direct and she was kind of dancing around the questions. But I think the reason why he was doing that is because he sensed that she was being disingenuous. The average man generally is in that $40,000, $50,000 ballpark. And initially she said, I don't necessarily need a good, high value man. I just want a good man. And I'm willing to pay 50% of the bills. And I think the average household income should be about $150,000 for us to live comfortably, because I'm making somewhere around that. So that's what I want. And Kevin kept going around asking her similar questions just to kind of get her to flush out what she was actually saying. We finally get to a point where he said, you make it seem like you want to be with an average man, but could you accept being with a man who only made $41,000? And she put her head down and said, not $41,000. That, ladies and gentlemen, is an admission that what the man makes in terms of his finances is actually a major determination that a lot of modern women use to determine whether or not they would do life with the man. She came in and she was saying, I give my husband 1,000 children. I do this, I'll do that, I'll do this. But then when you really get down to the numbers, it seems like she's not willing to lower certain standards that she may have in terms of what she expects her man to make. Now, my question is, if it's about how good the man is, if he's a teacher making $35,000, $40,000 a year, and he's a good man who's active, who's involved in the kid's life, who's present, why is that something not worthy of your consideration? So when he asked that question, would $41,000 be okay, suffice for you if the man was passionate about his craft and that's what he wanted to do, he wanted to teach or something like that? I'm just throwing out potential careers that pay in that ballpark. You know, could you accept that type of man? And she's like, not 41,000. Now, even if some modern women actually do accept the man that makes that much money, there's a part of them that feels like they're settling. And so they're still kind of trying to appeal to a guy who makes more money, even though they may be passing time with a guy who doesn't make as much. That's what he's trying to expose, is that despite all the rhetoric and all the statements she was making, she wasn't really pressed on finding a man, just a good man who made whatever. She wants a man that makes a certain amount of money. And the certain amount of money that she wants them to make, typically only the men in the top 10% make that type of money. So in a long way, she wants a high value man, a certain man that makes a certain amount of money to sort of do life with. And what he's saying is, what's your value proposition to appeal to a man like that? She thinks she ranks at a 9, 5'3", 153. I don't think her body type is, too far off the board, but Kevin thinks that maybe she's, not as fit as she could be for her age, weight, and size. But she is a very attractive lady. I'm sure she would have a lot of options in terms of men who would be interested. But the fact that she is not at 35 in a situation is probably indicative, and she's calling into a dating show with Kevin Samuels to get advice on how to appeal to a certain man. This already tells you that she doesn't have the options she'd like to have, which now speaks to why. I mean, if you're attractive enough and you think you're a 9, you should be pulling these guys in, for a relationship. But he's flushed out that maybe she's overestimating her looks and is not appealing to as many men as she thinks she deserves to appeal to.
Do you have
Well,
men
that's the thing. I do.
for marriage?
It's just that
For marriage? I don't mean
I've been proposed to a couple of times in the past since my divorce.
Okay, and these guys were earning, and these guys did what for a living?
Well, the last guy, he was a physician.
Uh-huh.
The other guy was an accountant.
He was a mechanic? Accountant. So you've had an accountant and a physician propose to you.
Right.
How long did you date the physician?
Like less than a year. It was 11 months.
Uh-huh. And how long did you date the accountant?
Maybe about 2 years.
And why didn't you marry either one of those men?
The accountant was cheating.
Uh-huh.
And physician, I just really felt like we didn't mash well together.
Okay. So, ma'am, you've had one husband with 2 children, right?
Right.
Okay. You've had an accountant and a physician. Why do you think this video game gives you unlimited lives?
I don't feel like it does. I just want to make sure that I make the right decisions.
Well, ma'am, okay, ma'am, but ma'am, do you make room for the possibility? I mean, come on, ma'am. You said you're 9 at 35. I mean, I see that's the problem. I hear so many women acting like y'all are such a prize, and I don't want to make the wrong decision and this and that. Okay, well, then grow old by yourself.
Oh, I don't.
And that's what a lot of things is, ma'am. If I'm just going on what you said. If you've had an accountant you spent 2 years with and he was cheating, I'll just take that. A physician you spent 11 months with and you didn't mesh, ma'am. Women and men in the chat room are asking, what the hell is this lady looking for? And it's perfection, because truthfully, I get it. When you overvalue yourself, anybody, you tend to hold out for what you think you're worth. But I'm sorry, ain't nobody that perfect.
That's a valid point. When you overvalue yourself, you tend to hold out for what you think you're worth. So if she thinks she's a 9 and she's probably being approached by men that she perceives are 6s and 5s, she's like, well, I'm a 9, I'll eventually get the type of man that I ultimately want, which is a man who's been more affluent and more accomplished or whatever. And you will pass up on some pretty good options for you because you're holding out for somebody that you think would be better suit you. I think that's the story of a lot of women. I think a lot of women think that the next best man is, on the horizon. He's only a day away, even though they're aging and their value diminishes by that time, because the older you are as a woman, the less value you present for geriatric pregnancy reasons, right? Obviously, for a man who wants to have children, the older you get, the harder it is for you to have children. So if that's a major quality that a man is looking for, which most men tend to get married to have a family, have children, that's going to be a hindrance, right? Now, the next best thing would be the companionship, maturity, and maybe whatever you guys can build together. And it goes back to how cooperative and loving and nurturing and, peaceful you make that environment for that man. And a lot of times that's where older women tend to have an issue because they're older, they're stuck in their ways and are more rigid and aren't willing to maybe conform to the expectations of their man as much. And so now there's a clash and there's butting of heads, and the guy has a hard time going home at night to you because you don't always agree. So those are the reasons why Kevin tries to point out to some of these ladies, look, when you're older, if you want to appeal to a man of high value, these are the traits that they value, right? Obviously being agreeable, being fit, being easy to get along with, easy to cooperate with. Those things will raise your value. Being wise, not being needy and demanding. All these things will help you appeal more because a man's like, look, this lady's a bit more mature. She matches my speed more. She's, a complement to my lifestyle and not like a disruption of my lifestyle. Those are the qualities that they ultimately want. And I think that's what he's trying to convey. I don't know how effectively, but he's trying to convey it to her.
And I'm just accepting everything you said, that all this stuff happened. Do you think that there's a point in time in your life where men will actually start just not paying you serious attention?
Yeah, I believe that.
What age? At what age?
Maybe by 40.
No, it's about you're at the age now, because when men want children, you're beyond child. You're at geriatric pregnancy. See, that number right, that realization right there should make you lower your number. Should make you lower your number, because men who are seeking, the kind of men who are earning on your level, they tend to want families. They also don't tend to want to be stepfathers. So if you legitimately had 2 men interested in marrying you after your husband and you turn both of those down, well, ma'am, maybe you need to look at
the one of them after the engagement. We found
after the engagement did what?
both of them.
Man, what? Okay, you're breaking after the engagement. What?
We found out he was cheating, so it wasn't like I just turned both of them down. I couldn't accept someone.
Okay, you found out he was cheating after you ended after you turned him down.
No, before I turned him down. So I agreed, and then I found out he was cheating during the engagement.
How'd you find that out? How'd you find that out?
Well, she contacted me.
And what did he say?
Well, she basically told me that.
No, what did he say? What did he say?
He admitted it. He was honest. He was forthcoming.
He was cheating while you guys were in a committed one-on-one relationship?
But we were engaged at the time.
Okay, so you've been engaged.
Yes.
Okay, did the physician propose to you?
He did.
So when I say engagement, I mean a man bought a ring of significant carriage, dropped to
Yes.
one knee in public and proposed to you. So you've had two men
Yes.
propose to you,
Yes, I have.
and you
physician
accepted. Hold on. You accepted the accountant, right?
Right.
And did you accept the physician?
I did not.
Okay, you did not. Well, ma'am, going to ask the same question I ask all the time. Have you ever sat down and had counseling or therapy?
I have.
Okay. How long ago was that?
When I was getting, like, years ago, when I was getting married, we had
Okay.
like marriage.
Well,
counseling.
I always recommend, well, we attract what we are, ma'am. And I'm just, like I say, accepting your story as it goes along. There are all kind of holes and inconsistencies, but it really doesn't matter at this point. Even as a woman who's 35, divorced with 2 kids, if you keep attracting men who are unsuitable or whatever, the only common denominator is us in all of our relationships. And you don't, and I understand people before the folks start coming from me. Remember, she's already said an average man ain't good enough for her.
I never said that. You
Ma'am,
said
an
that.
average earning man ain't good enough for you. Don't play with me. An average earning man ain't good enough for you. Don't play with me.
So why do you feel that I said that?
Because I said a man making $41,000, you'd accept him. Nah, not a man making 41. That's an average man. Don't play with me. Reality is a bitch, boy. Tell you. Unfortunately, for all the ladies who were like, she seems nice, such and so forth. You don't have to be a bad person, but ladies, your value drops. Your value drops. You can't keep demanding everything. You're gonna have to accept some stuff if you want a person. He was cheating. All right. What about the physician? There's something wrong with him too. Okay. Everybody there's something wrong with. And remember, she started out saying that I don't want no high value man. I just want a good guy who's this and that. All right. I'm going to go back to what the women who were matchmakers said, why they quit. They quit being matchmakers because women don't want good men. They want this list of things. And the things that they want, they don't even bring to the table. It's just not realistic. And I'm sorry that some of you ladies don't like the way it gets put, but that's just the reality. A man making $150,000, hello, please, get him a younger woman who's got some possibility. Hello, unmute yourself.
Okay, that was Kevin Samuels. He made some valid points in that one. He said what he said. She cleaned it up very well in that she was masking what she actually wants. When he said, well, you don't want an average man, he said, why do you think I don't want an average man? He said, because you said it wasn't okay for you to have a guy that made $41,000. That's an average man in America today. She's like, well, yeah. She conceded. He made another valid point when he said, well, you can't expect perfection out of the man you choose to give your time of day to when you yourself are not perfect. She admitted that, she's not as fit as she thinks she should be. So you're not perfect. She admitted that she's 35 with 2 kids, right? That's not a perfect situation for a new man coming into your life that may want kids himself, and you may not be able. I mean, she said she was willing to have as many kids with the man, 10,000 kids. But geriatric pregnancy deals with, whether or not you can have healthy children the later you are in your life. And for women, their body at some point starts to shut down. so that they don't harm themselves or the baby. And unfortunately, that's something that she failed to take into account. And I think what Kevin was saying is there are some guys that you're going to have that are decent guys. They're not perfect. Clearly, she had a situation where she accepted an engagement from a guy, but he was cheating. I don't know if it was an ex that lingered or whatever the case, but maybe she could have worked through that situation. She opted not to. I don't know. The point is, what he's saying is, at some point, you gotta compromise, make some compromises somewhere. Do I agree 100% with what Kevin says? No. But I think I agree with the majority of what he says, is that either she needs to expand her pool of men and accept the idea that some of the men that she may be compatible with are making far less money than she would expect to find a proper fit. Or if she does want a guy of a certain status, then she has to be willing to compromise with some of the things that comes with that type of guy, which may be cheating or some other things. Clearly, she hasn't reconciled that within herself. She clearly doesn't want a guy that makes a certain amount of money, but may not be as loyal, as faithful. And she's also don't want guys who are not making a certain amount of money, because that's too far beneath her expectations. She's in a conundrum, which is why she's single calling in. So lots to learn from this particular episode. But what say you? I definitely ask that you weigh in and let me know what your thoughts are. Like and subscribe to the show, The Intercourse Show. Stay connected. We like to have conversations on a multitude of topics, and we want to hear your input, your thoughts. What do you think? So like and subscribe, stay connected, weigh in, let me know what you think, and also share the video. All right. It's yours truly, Mr. B, signing off. I thank you once again. Until we speak again, God bless.